can I say, first of all, well done to Sky for doing this. We on the Foreign Affairs Committee have been trying to raise issues around the problems with red notices being served by countries, in particular authoritarian regimes, China, Russia, Qatar and others, as a way of repressing internal dissent in their own country or criticism of their country since 2021, when we produced a report which laid out all these problems. But it's really good that I think you're the first broadcaster that has really taken this seriously. So thank you very much to Sky. It's great that the UK government is very slowly showing an interest in this. But I remember very clearly, I'd just gone to Madrid. I'm chair of the All-Party Spain group, and I'd gone to Madrid and I had meetings with the then leader of the opposition, Pedro Sanchez. And that morning, Bill Browder rang me to say that he'd been arrested in Spain on a red notice through Interpol, which had been issued by Russia. Now, Bill Browder has been a prominent critic of the Putin regime for a long time. Fortunately, I was able to get in touch with Pedro Sanchez, who that day became prime minister, and we were able to get Bill Browder released. But that kind of abuse of the system simply shouldn't happen. Interpol is a great organization. The General Secretary is quite right that in the main, it manages to track down criminals across the world in 195 different countries, and it does a brilliant job. But it has got this Achilles heel, which is the inappropriate use of red notices. And I worry that the direction of travel that we're going in, if we continue to see the complacency from Mr. Stock that we saw in your series, the danger is that people will lose confidence in Interpol completely.
So do you think there should be a review, an international review of how these red notices are used?
There needs to be a review of how they're used and of how Interpol is funded. There was a very large amount of money given to Interpol by the United Arab Emirates a few years ago. We need to see how that influences decisions that are taken by Interpol. Because, look, as you know, with any kind of international cooperation, it's all very well for us to think, well, if we issued an Interpol red notice, of course that would have gone through due process and there'd be a fair hearing. And the police would not be operating, and the prosecuting authorities would not be operating in a malicious way. But we don't have that guarantee in some other countries around the world where human rights are not defended. And of course, the charter that it sort of establishes Interpol means that they are meant to respect all the elements of the International Convention on Human Rights. And my anxiety is that quite often, as I say, countries like China, Qatar, Russia in particular, use red notices as a means of shutting up dissent in their own country.
I mean, who are Interpol? I mean, they're sort of seen by many as an international police force, but they aren't really that, are they?
No, I think it stands for the. Oh, you're going to prove my idiocy now. The International Police Cooperation Policing Organisation, something like that. Sorry, you've thrown me there.
I mean, people can Google what it stands for, but I was more trying to get at who are the people who are enforcing these notices.
It's an elected organisation. The leadership is elected through the usual international processes, and that's why we wrote our document in 2021, because we were anxious about who is being proposed to be the new General Secretary and who is going to be in charge of the organisation. There were proposals at one point that it was going to be led by a Chinese representative, and we were very anxious about that because we thought that would be taking the organisation, which is meant to be based on the principles of fairness and the rule of law, down a direction which would probably embrace more Chinese understandings of justice and the rule of law, which would be very different from our own.
So if Interpol does need policing, in a sense, who reforms, who polices them?
Well, all the 195 members need to look carefully at the structures of the organisation. I think we, the British government, need to lean much more heavily on the General Secretary to look at these specific issues. It's not good enough to say, I'm not going to look at specific instances, because it's the specific instances that prove the problem with the way the system's working. And then, of course, the United Nations has a significant role to play in ensuring that Interpol operates in a way that upholds the United Nations Convention on Human Rights.
OK, Chris Bryant, good to talk to you on this. Thanks very much.
Thank you.